Goes podcast. I am your host, Kombat AllStar. Today we're going to be talking about the Cruiserweights because, yes, they have returned. For those of you who don't know who the Cruiserweights are, they are a bunch of wrestlers who are at 205 was the max. So 205 and under for Cruiserweights, and they do some amazing stuff. They are the cream of the crop. You know what I mean? They are the reason. They are the showstoppers. I mean, before okay, so we'll take it back. Back in the day, when the World Heavyweight title was for heavyweights, a lot like boxing. I mean, they modeled a lot from boxing, I think, the world of professional wrestling. But back in those days, the Cruiserweight, the heavyweight title was for heavyweights. And heavyweight is, I mean, it may have changed today, so don't quote me on it. But I remember back in the day, and I mean back in the day, it's like 90s, prior to 90s and before then, was 230. So 230 and above, heavyweight, I think super heavyweight was 300 and above. So heavyweight, 230 and above, and those guys rocked it. I mean, if you were less than 230, then you couldn't go for the heavyweight title. They had the United States title for WCW, and they had the Intercontinental Championship for people that were smaller. You know what I mean? So your Bret Harts and your Shawn Michaels and your Ricky Steamboats, they were the type that would typically go for the Intercontinental title or the WWE or the United States title. I'm sorry. So that's what those titles were created for. And they were, pretty known as the mid-card titles, they're middle of the card. And, back in the day, they didn't have, I guess a digital list of anything. They actually gave out cards as part of programs, and it had the beginning match at the bottom of the card and then your main event at the top of the card. So the mid-card guys, the guys who would fight in the middle of the card, had their own title too. So that's where that came from. And then I think back in the day during the Monday Night Wars, Eric Bischoff was he was running WCW at the time, you guys know, and he went and he got a lot of really good guys, really talented guys that were under 230, specifically at about 205 and below. So he went around the world. I mean, he went to Canada, he went to Mexico, he went to Japan. He got all these great guys, and I mean, they started the Cruiserweight division in WCW, and it was the first ever Cruiserweight division. WWE, I think a little later, maybe a year or two later, kind of caught wind of what WCW was doing, and that it was successful, so they created the lightweights. So they had a lightweight division, while WCW had the Cruiserweights. And then we all know after, they bought WCW, blah, 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 they kind of stole the name of the Cruiserweight division. And it lasted a little while before they ended up getting rid of the Cruiserweight division altogether. And, you had Cruiserweights like Eddie Guerrero winning titles and stuff like that. So, little brief history about, the weight divisions back in the day. And WCW was great. They were great at it. I think, they had the best athletes, period. You had, your Shawn Michaels and your Bret Harts and everything on WWF at the time, but, they weren't really doing it. That's why they had to create the Attitude Era and create characters like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Godfather and all that. So, they had to step up their game because WCW had great ideas, and the greatest idea was the Cruiserweight division. I remember back in the day when they were doing NWO Red, NWO Hollywood, I think it was, and then Latino World Order, and then ECW was doing the BWO Blue Meanie and everything, and it was awful. And those shows became kind of hard to watch, and it was because those guys got so much TV time. They were doing stupid things. It wasn't real wrestling. Hulk Hogan hitting the guy with the finger and he fall to the ground. Vince Russo coming in the ring, throwing in the title. Here, you're the champion now. It was a lot of stupid stuff. But the highlight of those shows when all that stupid stuff was happening, and even before, arguably, was the Cruiserweight division. You had guys like Parka, Ultimo Dragon. You had guys like Dean Malenko. You had guys like Eddie Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero. You had Chris Jericho. The list goes on, and those guys were killing it. Even the Lance Storms. Dude had no personality, but man, he could get it done in the ring. Chris Benoit shined in the Cruiserweight division. So that was it was so awesome to see that and to tune in to see what kind of stuff that they were doing every week. So that was just amazing to tune into WCW and see that. I mean, aside from the Cruiserweight division, they had the Nitro girls, which you could only see if you got a ticket to the arena, so it enticed people to come to the arena. But man, Eric Bischoff was way full of good ideas, and the Cruiserweight division was possibly one of the best ideas he had. And man, was it a great one. It was epic in every way. Those are like my fondest memories. I remember seeing, La Parka the chairman coming out, and the rivalry between Dean Malenko and Jericho, and how Jericho was the Lionheart. Before that, Y2J crap, and oh man, it was phenomenal. I loved it. I ate it up. I mean, watching those guys move in the ring, and the things that they were doing, and the high flying, and just I remember seeing Rey Mysterio Jr. go at it back when he was Rey Mysterio Jr. Man, and this makes me want to go ahead and watch turn on the network and watch some WCW matches, some Nitro, because man, that stuff is on point. I still watch Nitro to this point, to this day, I should say, and I love it, man. Mongo McMichael sitting up there with his little Chihuahua type dog with a little hat on his head and everything, and him wearing the Bears jacket and thinking he's still a football player coming out to the ring. It was just a fun and exciting time, and man, to be able to live through it was just amazing. Thank goodness it's on the WWE Network so we can all watch it. But man, good times. And then, the good times ended. After, Eddie Guerrero won the title, and I think somebody else won the title too, won the world title, and he won the WCW title, the WWE title, I should say. And they hugged in the ring. I think it was at WrestleMania 20, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it was awesome. It was great. Maybe it was 2020. I forget which one it was, but yeah, I mean, after that, they kind of ended the whole Cruiserweight division and kind of fizzled out. It didn't matter how small you are, how big you are, you can go for the WWE title. They stopped calling it the heavyweight title, actually, and they just started calling it the WWE title. And then, they had the WCW, which was the World Heavyweight title. But that's another story. But the point is, they phased out the Cruiserweight division, and those guys that were small were winning the world title, which didn't make any sense because sometimes it was still referred to it as the heavyweight title, which didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Rey Mysterio was like, what, $195, and he's heavyweight champion. Eddie Guerrero was heavyweight champion. It didn't make any sense to me, but yeah, it went away. It went away for a long time, and just recently they brought it back. I mean, they had this whole thing in the WWE Network, the Cruiserweight Classic, and it was awesome. The Cruiserweight Classic was absolutely amazing. It had a rough start. It was hard to watch at first. The first round guys got eliminated, and you saw who was around and who shined, and it was a great time. It was a great time. That 2-hour finale was just amazing. Seeing T.J. Perkins versus Malik, I think his name was, go at it for the finals, and it was just awesome. The match was amazing. It is very much the X division. It is, Cruiserweights back in the day, they were more technical, a lot of holds, a lot of submissions. They were smaller guys. A lot. So most of the guys there were technicians. So, you had your Chris Benoits and your Dean Malenkos and your Lance Storms. And, most of the division was those guys. You didn't have those exciting guys like Rey Mysterio and like Jericho and like La Parka and Ultimo Dragon. So, it was a good mix, but I'd say about 80% of those guys were mat wrestlers, so you had to really enjoy wrestling to enjoy a Cruiserweight match. That being said, Cruiserweights, back in those days were just, it was more mat, less flying. But then in the Cruiserweight division, it was more flying, less mat. So it's kind of mixing it up a little bit, and I get it. Back in the day, you could do like a 2-hour match and have a feud, an hour match each time, and have 3 different matches, like Dusty Rhodes and with Superstar Billy Graham. I think they had like 3 matches, and they were all epic. And then you had other people back in the day too that had similar type matches where they would have a feud that would go on for a long time, and you'd have like a 5 or 7 series match, which doesn't work today. Cesaro and Sheamus, I'm so uninterested in their match, and it doesn't mean anything. No one cares. It's not like back in the day. But aside from those matches, these people, these Cruiserweights, they go in there and they get it done, and it's just amazing to see and to watch. And that finale was awesome. TJ Perkins won, and he gave this awesome speech about how, he barely had anything to eat, and he was living on the streets, and he had a key to his last place that he lived at, and he had made it to a necklace, put it around his neck, and always reminded him of a place he could never go back to, while he was, wrestling in the indies and everything and trying to make some money. And then now, after he won it, he's like, now it's a place that I don't have to go back to. And I always wondered, okay, so you and I, we're smart people, right? So we know that wrestling doesn't work. So how did they get, I was always curious when this tournament was starting, how did they get 32 people from all around the world to compete in this quote-unquote tournament, right? And how did people agree to get knocked out in the first round? It didn't make any sense to me. If I'm feeding my family, I'm an independent contractor, I'm working for WWE, I'm not going to be knocked out in the first match. It's going to pretty much suck balls. So how did they get these people to go ahead and do that? And then, we find out, after TJ Perkins wins and, yesterday, which was Monday on Raw, we find out that everybody who was in the tournament are making up the division, the Cruiserweight division, which is brilliant. These guys work together, they know each other's, flows and everything. And it's just awesome. You have a division and you're good to go. I am a little worried because, back in WCW days, you had I think you had 2 or 3 matches, at least 2 matches, at the most 3 matches, Cruiserweights. You got 32 people. I mean, how are you going to fit 32 people into Raw unless you do that? And I feel like they're going to treat this like the women's division, how the women's division just has 1 match, maybe 2 matches. But I don't know. I feel like they're going to kind of treat them that way, and I really hope that they don't. I mean, WCW back in the day was a different time. But I really hope that they cut those promos down, and I hope that they give these guys a legit shot to show what they can do, and we get some good stuff, some good rivalries, and see what happens. So, really looking forward to the Cruiserweight division here. The talent is stacked. 90% of these people, I don't know who they are. Some of them I do. Some of them made it to NXT. The ones that weren't as seasoned as the others have shown up on NXT. So I'm not sure if they're going to stay there and then come up to Raw, or they just kind of made some appearances on NXT and then they're going to end up on Raw. So I don't know how that's going to work. Time will tell. But the Cruiserweight Classic was awesome. The finale was simply amazing. TJ Perkins, well done. If you guys don't know who TJ Perkins is, he was basically, so back in the day, TNA made a video game, and it was an awesome video game, by the way. Midway did it. It was very much Mortal Kombat-esque, very hard-hitting. How Midway style is. So Midway Games did it. It was an excellent game. And for the game, they made up a character that you play through the game as. So you didn't get to see your face or your skin. You just kind of, played as this character. And this character ended up being Suicide. Suicide was covered from head to toe. So, gloves, head, you couldn't see, what his race or ethnicity was. And it was awesome. So, the guy, his moves were amazing in the ring. He was a video game character, legit video game character. I was at the time I was playing dude, there's no way this guy could ever exist in real life, because his moves are like something that a stuntman on strings should be doing, right? And then a couple months later, I guess the game was very successful, and TNA went ahead and made this guy legit. The first guy was Frankie Kazarian. He was out for a while under the Frankie Kazarian name. And then later it was Christopher Daniels was Suicide. And then they did this whole angle. And then after that was TJ Perkins. TJ Perkins was Suicide for most of Suicide's career. And then later, they changed his name to Manic because they're trying to be more TV friendly or whatever. And Suicide, that name didn't work. So Manic/Suicide got his costume stolen, and we find out that it was Austin Aries who stole his costume when he was trying to weasel his way back into the X Division so he could grab the title and cash it in and become the new TNA champion, which is also a great idea, I might add. So, that angle, when he did that, Hulk Hogan came out with Perkins and was like, this is TJ Perkins, he plays Manic Suicide, someone has stolen his Suicide ring gear, this is not cool, blah, 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 blah. But the point is, it was his first appearance on TV. So that's how I know of T.J. Perkins, and that was, you know, him debuting on TV. And then he kind of went away, a lot like a lot of the TNA stars. A lot of TNA stars went to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Others showed up in TNA. Now, you know, AJ Styles is the champion over on SmackDown, so they kind of went to other companies. And this guy, you know, never to be heard from again. And then his speech at the end, you know, we're talking about his key and how he can't, you know, go back to that place living in his car. And it was just awesome. It was like a full circle moment. So hats off to that guy. Congratulations to TJ Perkins. You deserve it, man. The crowd was right. You deserve it. The belt is beautiful, man. I'm not into purple that much. Well, I guess you look at the Kombat AllStar show set and, you know, think otherwise. But not really into purple that much. But that belt looks pretty awesome. It looks pretty legit. It reminds me of kind of the straps of the old, where, you know, they had the yellow WWE title and the, you know, the white WWE title and the green. Yeah, it kind of changed up the color of the strap. And the silver, I'm really digging the silver. So it's a nice belt. It's a good change. It's a little cluttered, I think, but still a nice design. And I mean, he's bringing it over to Raw. I mean, he wasn't on Raw on Monday, but hopefully we see him soon. He does have a match at Clash of Champions, which is weird. I'm not sure why they chose Clash of Champions. That was a WCW pay-per-view with, you know, the arm being a wave and everything. I don't know. It's a little strange. Maybe they want to honor Dusty Rhodes because he made it up. No clue. But he has a match there with the Brian Kendrick. They had a fatal four-way on Raw, and it was awesome. And I want to see more. I mean, it was great. I didn't expect Brian Kendrick to win at all. But man, he won. And hopefully he doesn't take the title from TJ Perkins, because that would be a travesty. But maybe he makes it a good match at Clash of Champions, so we can see some good stuff coming out of, you know, that division, just making it stronger. So I'm very excited. I can't wait to see what they do with the division. Like I said, hopefully we get more than just one match a night. We at least get 2 to 3 matches a night. And I mean, it's a 3-hour show. It's a 3-hour show. They should have no problem doing that. Just cut down all the promos and all the talking, and put some cruiserweight matches up in there, man. Don't treat them like the women's division. Although, I mean, the women's division, they're still getting their 1 match a night. You know, maybe 2 if we're lucky, but the matches run a lot longer, which is great, you know. Quality over quantity, I suppose, but still, you gotta give these guys a chance. I mean, it's a 3-hour show. You can easily fit a good, decent wrestling match in a 2-hour show, just like SmackDown does, and leave that last hour for the Cruiserweights. That'd be amazing. So we'll see where it goes from here. I'm excited to see the Cruiserweights back. I want to see some, you know, I want them to create some awesome memories, so I can have something to reflect on and look back on, like I do, you know, finally, like I do with the WCW Cruiserweight division, because that division was smoking. It was on fire. It was the greatest thing ever. So hopefully they keep building it. It'd be nice if people, you know, are really, I would like to see some people that are really, really motivated and wanting to claw each other's eyes out to get this title, because back in the day, every title I felt meant something. When someone was the Intercontinental Championship, it was the same, like, to me as a fan, in my eyes, it was the same level as the WWE title. When Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan went at it at WrestleMania 6, those titles were equal to me. I was like, oh, someone's going to be double champion at the end of this. That's, you know, that's how I felt. When Roddy Piper was going against Bret Hart, and, you know, they cut the promo when they were side by side and Mean Gene was interviewing them, that title was just as important as the WWE title. I saw no difference in status in that title. I mean, that's been, you know, that title has been regarded as the wrestler's title. If you could be the best wrestlers held that title, and the more flashy entertainment had the WWE title. But, I mean, they need to have that be so. They need to treat this Cruiserweight division, or this Cruiserweight title, the same as they would do with the WWE title, and treat it as an equal. Because, I mean, although, you know, the X Division thing is cool, cashing that in for a title shot for TNA, you don't want a lesser than belt. You know, you want or a title, I should say. You want a title that actually means something, that holds a lot of weight, and that is equal to your WWE title. I mean, I know WWE is always going to have, you know, a soft spot in their heart for their own title, even when the World Heavyweight Championship came over, and that is the real world title. I don't care what anyone says. That's the real world title. It has more history, more lineage. It means more. So, you know, they were just they didn't care. They treated it like a second-rate title, and that sucked. But I really want them to not do that with the Cruiserweight title and have it be what it is supposed to be, and that's just as good as the WWE title. So what do you guys think? Do you really enjoy the Cruiserweight division coming back? Did you like the Cruiserweight Classic that happened? Let me know your thoughts. I want to know what you guys think about some wrestling, some good old home down dirty wrestling. I mean, Lucha Underground's tearing it up, Ring of Honor's tearing it up. Brandy Rhodes, Cody Rhodes' wife, just announced that she's going to be at the Knockout division. Damien Sandow's over there at TNA. So I mean, it's getting stacked, dude. The wrestling world is getting stacked. It's a great time to be a fan. Not as great as the early '90s when they were getting 8 million views a show and everything like that. 3 million is still pretty good today, but it's a good time to be a wrestling fan. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, y'all, so long.